Hello, dear colleagues. You're here with me, Oleg Sorokin, and today I'm going to be continuing our series of lectures about subdoshas. And today we're gonna be talking about Pitta Subdoshas, which will be the next lecture, which will reveal all the secrets of Nidana module. And we gave the name of this module for a reason, because Nidana from Sanskrit means the origin of something. And if we're going to be talking in the language of modern medicine, we are talking about the cause of the disease, or the teaching about the etiology of the disease. And we've created this module in order to reveal the pathogenesis, the reasons of the disease, those thin parts of the health of your patient. We've agreed on the previous lecture that under subdoshas we'll be understanding the systems of sub-regulation. And today I'm giving you this lecture in order to help you understand those complex terms of Sanskrit and translate them to the understandable language of the physiology. As you know, from the palpation diagnosis, the analysis of subdoshas is done on the third level of the pulse, on the radial artery. And if you're doing a palpation diagnosis and you feel the pulse with your fingers, normally there should not be any pulse pushes at the third level. And the theory of Ayurveda says that the presence of a pulse push tells you about the involvement of a specific subdosha into the pathologic process. And Pitta-related subdoshas are palpated by the middle finger. Please take a look at this picture. This arrow shows you the direction of blood flow. And the part of your finger which is connected to Pachaka Pitta is closer to your wrist. And part of the finger which is connected to Sadhaka Pitta is closer to your heart. Pulse diagnosis, a professional pulse diagnosis, is trying to visualize all those pulse pushes which he feels with his fingers and understand in which part of his finger he feels this pulse push. And you understand that this is a top-notch art of feeling those pulse pushes. Just imagine if you feel not one, but 2 or 3 pulse pushes. And that is why those instrumental help, the help of the devices is very important in your work, but it doesn't exclude your professional knowledge of a palpation diagnosis. And in my lectures, I keep telling that the professional should know both palpation diagnosis and have those instruments of technical knowledge. So the first subdosha that we'll pay attention to is Pachaka Pitta. If we refer to canonic studies, canonic Sanskrit studies, we will see that Pachaka from Sanskrit literally means the one who digests or the one who cooks. And some variants of translation of Pachaka are connected with the meanings of fire or a cook. And by reading those canonic studies, by translating and understanding that canonic studies, we come up with the fact that with the several statements about Pachaka Pitta. And the first term which stands behind Pachaka Pitta is the fire that digests food. Then those studies tell us about the place, the location of Pachaka Pitta. And they say that it is located in the small intestine and in the stomach. But a smart researcher will notice that this is not just the location of Pachaka Pitta, but the process which it guides. And it guides the digestive power of the stomach and intestine. And one of the studies also refers to Pachaka Pitta as the essence that digests food and divides it into the essence and wastes. And trying to approximate this holistic knowledge, we are trying to connect Pachaka Pitta with certain physiological concepts. And from those 4 points, well, we can understand that that Pachaka Pitta is associated with several segments. And these are the secretions which are released into certain places, certain zones of your body, which are the stomach or the gastric juice in it, and duodenum or the pancreatic juice, bile, and intestinal juice. But if we will stop on this understanding of Pachaka Pitta, this will be only half of the Pachaka Pitta's concept. The second part will be connected with the system which guides or regulates the processes of secretion. And if we'll be talking about Pachaka Pitta from the point of view of physiology, it will be associated with gastrointestinal endocrine system, or APUD system. And to understand the science behind all those processes which are described in Nidana module and particularly in Subdosha tab, we need to take a closer look to certain processes which are happening in our bodies. We said that Pachaka Pitta is connected to the gastric juice, which is secreted in the stomach. But we also know that there is a mucus which is secreted in the stomach, which is connected to Klidaka Kapha. And it is not controversial because our stomach has several certain zones which are divided. And the first zone is the zone of cardial glands, because it is the closest one to the heart. And there are iron cells in it which which release mucus. And this mucus, it wraps around this chyme which gets into the stomach. And if Klidaka Kapha it is balanced, it starts to produce a lot of mucus. And the second part is the fundal part of the stomach, which is connected to Pachaka Pitta. On our picture, on our image, you can see it on numbers 3 and 4. Previous segment was 1 and 2, parts 1 and 2. And in this part of the stomach, there are certain glands which produce the thing which we call gastric juice. And in this zone, by number 3, you can see the brain of the stomach. There are a lot of nervous cells in it which control the motility and secretion. And by number 5, there is a zone which is called intermediary. This is a very important zone which divides two important functional parts of the stomach. Because sixth part, which is called antral, it doesn't produce gastric juice. And if in fundal part, the acidity can be very, very high, which is really necessary for the work of enzymes of the gastric juice. And in antral part of the stomach, the acidity can be very low. It can be even, the basic reaction can be very low acidity. Because this part of the stomach is an endocrine part. And there are certain very important cells which are located in it, which are closely connected to Pachaka Pitta, and we will be talking about this a little bit later. And if we see the histologic section of the gastric wall, we will see a lot of different cells, and we need this triangle cell, which is called the parietal cell. This parietal cell is a transformer cell. It can be in two conformational processes: during the digestion process and without the digestion process. By the time the food gets into the stomach, this cell activates and starts to produce gastric juice. And if we are talking about Pachaka Pitta on the material level, we are talking about this particular cell, because this fire of digestion, which of course is connected to hydrochloric acid, will be guided by this particular process. The process of secretion of hydrochloric acid is very complex. It is regulated both from the side of the nervous system and from the side of the endocrine system. And the main regulator from the side of the nervous system is acetylcholine. And from the side of the endocrine system, the main mediator will be gastrin and histamine. On this picture, you can see a triple counter module which describes the function of the parietal cell. First one is numerous regulation, which is connected to the mucous lining and control the work of this cell. And due to that fact, the nervous wall, which is connected to the production of acetylcholine, it promotes this cell to secrete gastric juice. And herbal substances or medicinal substances like atropine can block this process. The second ring is connected to gastrin, which is secreted in the antral part of the stomach, and it is connected to the endocrine system. Its action is also connected to the stimulation of the cell for production of hydrochloric acid. But the main regulator which forces this cell to produce hydrochloric acid is histamine. So if we talk about Pachaka Pitta from the physiological point of view, we've agreed that we will associate it, first of all, with the gastric juice. And during one day, a human stomach produces 2 to 2.5 liters of gastric juice, which is highly acidic. And it is so aggressive that if there were no protection mechanisms in our body, it could dissolve all the organs inside. And about those protection systems, we'll be talking in our next lecture, where we will tap on Klidaka Kapha basics. Now let's try to understand why we call our gastric juice a fire of digestion. First of all, it consists of hydrochloric acid, but we need to understand that there are other enzymes containing it. First of all, those enzymes are in charge of this. An adult human releases enzymes which only influence the protein part. And in our stomach, the food is not digested. There is only a preparation stage going to preparation stage for the digestion of the proteins. So there is a stage of preparation of molecules of proteins in the stomach, not the digestion. And the second part of Pachaka Pitta is the regulation circle, which is connected to the nervous system. So the main part of the nervous system which is connected to the gastric juice is a vagus nerve. Vagus can promote secretion directly or influence through another enzymes, or for example gastrin. And a very serious role in the regulation of gastric secretion is played by gastrin enzyme. As I said, gastrin is produced in the very far part of the stomach by G cells. Thus, our stomach is a very, very powerful gland which produces hormones, and the main of which is gastrin. And it is not right to treat our stomach as an organ which only produces gastric juice or just digests food. It is a very complex organ with different functions. And very often, such disorders like gastritis are triggered by the dysregulation from the side of those nervous processes. That is why in treatment of such disorders, it is very important not only to influence the level of hydrochloric acid. It is very important to influence the nervous part of your body and nervous and endocrine processes of your body with certain medicines. So histamine, it is the third mechanism of regulation, which is not only connected to allergic processes, but it also takes part in those serious, complex regulation processes. And to finish with this part of description of Pachaka Pitta, I'm going to tell about one more important hormone. This hormone is called somatostatin. It is also produced into the antral zone, the same as where gastrin is produced. And the health of the stomach is determined by the state of those two hormones, somatostatin and gastrin. In fact, many of you might know that the bacteria which parasite on the mucous lining of the stomach are connected with the ulcer disease. But not many people know the way how it is happening. And it happens so that these parasites, these bacteria, is disbalancing somatostatin and gastrin. It breaks down the balance between those two hormones. They influence these cells with toxins, and its amount is falling down. Thus, the gastrin takes over, and the production of gastrin increases, thus giving you the ulcer. For the users of VedaPulse system, it is highly important to not only evaluate the Nidana tab and of course Subdosha tab, but it is important to evaluate it in connection with the Meridians tab. On this slide, I'm giving you a very pragmatic information which helps you to understand the health state of your patient. And if you see that Pachaka Pitta is disordered and it is also connected to the disorder in the third channel meridian, you can understand that this is connected to the disorders of gastric secretion. And for example, if you see high Pachaka Pitta and tension in the third channel, it can be connected with hyperacidity and the excess of those enzymes which we were talking about. And at the same time, low Pachaka and the reduction of energy in the channel of the stomach can be the sign of hypoacidity. Of course, there can be intermediary cases, but you need to treat them according to the symptoms of your patient. To finish the description of Pachaka Pitta on the level of physiology, let's sum everything up. So, Pachaka Pitta has two components. The first one is regulatory component, and the second one is efferent component, which actually have the direct action on your body. Regulatory component is connected to certain hormones and the nervous processes happening in the stomach. And efferent component is directly connected to hydrochloric acid. And if you see that Pachaka is in disorder together with the third channel meridian, you must pay attention to these certain physiological processes. But now let's talk about Pachaka Pitta on the level of small intestine. But because it is said that Pachaka Pitta is located not only in the stomach and in gastric juice, but also in the small intestine and in the pancreas. Duodenum is the chemical reactor. It is called a chemical reactor of our body. And the main processes of food transformation are happening in this particular part of the stomach. It is connected with the fact that in the duodenum, a lot of different secretions are released and a lot of hormones which control everything. And the first process which guides the digestive process is, of course, the pancreatic juice. Around 1.5 to 2 liters of pancreatic juice is produced in the body of an average person. And we also can say that pancreatic secretion is the fire of digestion. Pancreatic juice has all the enzymes which are capable of breaking down any food that comes into our bodies. In particular, we are talking about the enzymes which break down protein. For example, the main one is trypsin. 1 gram of trypsin has the ability to dissolve an amount of meat which is equivalent to the weight of 1 horse. That is why the final processes of breaking down the proteins are happening in this particular part of the stomach. Besides, there are some enzymes which are called lipolytic enzymes. They are involved into breaking down of the fats. And also pancreatic juice has other enzymes. For example, an enzyme which breaks down polysaccharides. And when we're talking about Pachaka Pitta as a cook, we are talking about the secretions which are happening in this particular part of the stomach, pancreatic juice. Because this cook can prepare the food which contains of these particular substances. The process of regulation of secretion is the subject of our today's lecture. On this slide, I have shown you the hormones or neuromédiators which guide this process because they are the main conductors. It's the secretin and cholecystokinin. And let's analyze this from the point of view of indices of VedaPulse. If we see a disorder in Pachaka Pitta, which is connected to the disorder in the 4th channel meridian of the which is connected to the pancreas, then we can basically tell that this is a disorder of pancreatic secretion. And in particular, high Pachaka and tension in the 4th channel is a sign of the pancreatitis. And at the same time, the decrease of Pachaka Pitta and decrease of in the 4th channel meridian can be the sign of changing of the profile of these hormones, and which can lead to insufficient secretion. So let's sum it up. Pachaka on the level of the small intestine. It also has 2 components, which is regulatory and efferent. Regulatory component is connected to certain hormones, main of which are secretin and cholecystokinin. And efferent component is connected to the contents of the pancreatic juice or the enzymes of pancreatic juice. But in the small intestine, there is one more secretion which is actively working, and it is called the bile. Without the bile, many processes would not happen if the bile wasn't there. The bile is excreted to the with the secrets of the small intestine to the small intestine, and together with the pancreatic secretion, it contributes to the breaking down of the fats. The bile is a very complex component, and the main part of the bile is bile acid. Around 1.5 liters of the bile is produced in the body of the average person. And bile acids are the very precious component which our organism is trying to perceive, to contain. It is produced in the liver in the amount of 0.5 grams per day. And 95% of the bile acids are returned into our system and again excreted by our liver. And one of the main functions of the bile is its importance in the process of breaking down of the fats and with absorption of fat-soluble vitamins like A, D, E is not possible. The bile controls all our settlers of our intestine or bacteria and leaves only those which do not have negative effect on our bodies. But the bile also helps us to excrete the unnecessary substances from our bodies. For example, the products of hemoglobin breakdown, which we'll be talking about a little bit later. On this picture, you can see those drops of bile acids which surround lipids and then break it down into hydrophobic parts, and then those hydrophobic parts turn into hydrophilous parts, which make the drops of fat soluble. And without this, the process of fat breakdown is not possible. Not many people know that the process of bile production is permanent. It doesn't matter whether we sleep or eat or work, the production of bile is constant and permanent. There are only certain processes that can intensify the process of bile production or slow it down. And the bile is contained into the bile bladder, and it is released during certain processes. For example, the process of eating. And the main stimulator for the bile are bile acids themselves. That is why Chinese people are including bile into the medicines which treat problems with the gallbladder. But let's return to the indices of VedaPulse. If we see a disorder in Pachaka Pitta and it is connected to the disorder in the 11th channel in the meridians, then it is a sign of the disorder of bile secretion. And the stress in Pachaka and tension in the 11th channel can be the sign of cholecystitis. All other processes, the reduction in the index of Pachaka Pitta and reduction in the 11th meridian can be the sign of dyskinesia. Just remember, in the beginning of our lecture, we were talking that Pachaka Pitta divides the food into the essence and wastes, and then essence is assimilated by our bodies. Now I will tell you why and what equivalent it has from the physiological point of view. The thing is that Pachaka not only guides the process of food transformation, it also guides the process of food assimilation. But unlike Samanavata, which we were talking about on our previous lecture, Pachaka Pitta is connected to the endocrine regulation systems. And this endocrine system regulates the process of assimilation of polysaccharides, amino acids, and products of fat hydrolysis. That is exactly why when you see the disorder of Pachaka Pitta and the disorder in the 6th channel, 6th meridian, it can be the sign of malabsorption. So let's sum it up again. The decrease in Pachaka Pitta index. We are talking now in general, but we understand that there is a whole series of those processes happening behind Pachaka Pitta. The changes in profile of Pachaka Pitta can be the sign of disorders of the amount of those secretions. And with hypofunction of these APUD systems, increase in the Pachaka Pitta index can be the sign of the tension of the hormonal regulation mechanisms. And very often, by my experience and by experience of the VedaPulse users, it is associated with psychosomatic processes and psychosomatic stresses. And let's see what the best specialists of Ayurveda in the world say about Pachaka Pitta. Vasantla says only that if you're palpating Pachaka Pitta, this is connected with the disorder of the process of digestion, absorption, and assimilation of the nutrients. And Dr. Atreya Smith tells that dysfunction of Pachaka Pitta is connected with ulcers, hyperacidity, malabsorption, some digestive disorders, and what is important, with disorders of thermogenesis. If you see the dysfunction of Pachaka Pitta, this is how you can help your patients to cope with it. The main formula is as follows. You should use herbs with at the same time bitter and sweet tastes, and which has cool energy that will calm Pachaka Pitta down. On this slide, I'm showing you the herbs which either increase Pachaka Pitta or decrease it. Dr. Frawley broadens this list and shows us some herbs which can balance Pachaka Pitta. For example, let's take a look at the very famous Ayurvedic herb, which is called Emblica officinalis or Amalaki. It is said that it is very useful during Pachaka Pitta disorders. This herb has cool energy. That is why it calms down disbalanced Pachaka Pitta very well. So when you have a choice of what to use, you can use Amalaki. This is a very affordable herb. And the next subdosha that we'll be talking about is called Ranjaka Pitta. If we refer to some canonic studies, we will see that from Sanskrit, Ranjaka literally means the one who paints something, or the painter. And in commentaries, it is said that Ranjaka Pitta gives a pinkish color to rasa, or the plasma of the blood. And by analyzing the comments to the canonic studies, we will see the following. It is said that Ranjaka Pitta transforms rasa into rakta. You know that rasa is connected to the liquid substances in our body, and first of all with the blood. And rakta dhatu is connected to the cellular elements of the blood. Thus, transformation of rasa into rakta is interpreted like something which is in the blood transforms into the cells. Going further, we see that we see the place where this system of regulation is located. It is said that Ranjaka is located in the liver and in the spleen. And another comments tell that Ranjaka Pitta paints the blood, the bile, and feces. By the modern concept, the Ranjaka is associated with the whole set of biochemical systems which are involved into the metabolism of heme and ferrum or iron metabolism. Practically, Ranjaka Pitta is something that maintains the level of hemoglobin in our bodies. On this scheme, you can see the complex process of metabolism of heme and ferrum metabolism. I'm paying close attention to this picture in my lecture about anemia, and I'm also preparing this lecture for my foreign. But now I'm gonna try to answer the question about what is heme. Because we say that Ranjaka Pitta is connected to the heme, but what is heme? From the point of view of physiology, heme is the part of the enzyme which is included into several groups. The first group is hemoglobin. You know that hemoglobin is located in the erythrocytes. But not many of you know that hemoglobin is also located in the muscle cells. And if erythrocytes helps us to transfer the oxygen through the blood, the hemoglobin in our muscles helps us to assimilate it. And another part in which heme is involved is cytochromes. These are enzymes that are located in our liver, and they are included into all the detoxification processes that are happening in our bodies. And life without those cytochromes is not possible, because toxic metabolites will end our lives in just a few minutes. And heme is also connected to the group of enzymes, which is called catalase. Catalase is the system of enzymes in our bodies, which is closely connected to our immune system, and it helps our immune system to combat the foreign components that are coming to our bodies. And when we are talking about Ranjaka Pitta, we should not talk only about the production of erythrocytes and hemoglobin. Of course, this is the main function, but we should understand that heme is also a part of other groups of enzymes. Just remember, we were talking about the fact that Ranjaka Pitta is located in the liver. And it is a fact that the main place of production of heme is the liver. And the main place where heme is discharged and is broken down is the spleen. And the process of creation of heme is closely connected to the process of destruction of heme, and is binded to Ranjaka Pitta. And during the disorders of Ranjaka Pitta, there might be a disease which is referred to as porphyria. You all perfectly know that people with Pitta constitution are very sensitive to the light, and they get burned very fast, and then they do not like to get suntan. It is connected to the fact that their Ranjaka Pitta is slightly tensioned if you compare it with Vata or Kapha type. It means that their heme metabolism goes faster. The product of heme metabolism is bilirubin. And if there is too much of bilirubin, it increases the sensitivity of the skin to the sunlight. Also, people with Ranjaka Pitta, high Ranjaka Pitta, have higher levels of porphyrins in their blood, and which makes them irritable and short-tempered. But at the same time, they are very insightful and very active. Now, let's talk about VedaPulse and indices. If you see the disbalance of Ranjaka Pitta, just take a look at the Dhatu tab and see if Rakta is in balance. Also, pay attention to the fourth channel of meridian. This can be the sign of anemia. And connection of Ranjaka and the 12th channel can be the sign of liver problems and hepatosis in particular. Disbalance of Ranjaka Pitta and 11th channel might be the sign of cholecystitis. The connection of disbalanced Ranjaka Pitta and the 3rd channel can be the sign of the ulcer, which is caused by the reflux of the bile into the stomach. And the connection of disbalanced Ranjaka plus 4th channel plus 6th channel can be the sign of inflammation process in the pancreas and in the small intestine as well, which might be the sign of duodenum and chronic pancreatitis. And Dr. Vasantlat says about the projection of Ranjaka Pitta on the third finger. He says that it can be connected with the following disorders. First of all, these are problems connected with the liver and gallbladder, problems on the level of spleen, problems on the level of cholesterol metabolism, and there is a certain thing, a certain secret, which I will tell you in today's lecture. The dysfunction of Ranjaka Pitta is connected with the steroid hormones, like the endocrine disorders, which are connected to the inflammatory process, inflammatory genesis on the level of reproductive system. Atreya Smith tells us that the dysfunction of Ranjaka Pitta is always connected to liver diseases, blood diseases, and yellowness of the sclera. What can be done if you notice the disbalance of Ranjaka Pitta in a certain patient which you are assessing? The main formula is to use herbs with bitter and sweet taste and cool energy. But there is one important thing. You need to use those herbs which has diuretic and choleretic properties. You can see all those herbs. I will not read them all, but I will pay attention only to one herb, which is called Humi Amalaki. Dr. Frowley broadens this list of herbs which are recommended to balance Ranjaka Pitta, and one of those herbs, of course, is aloe juice. As an example, we'll pay attention to one herb which is called Humi Amalaki. If a patient with viral hepatitis will be using hospital services, he will pay a lot of money. Eastern people have known for many years that there is just a marvelous herb which is called Humi Amalaki. And there are tons of clinical research which tell us that Humi Amalaki is working perfectly on Ranjaka Pitta, influenced greatly on Ranjaka Pitta. The next subdosha that we will be talking about is Bhrajaka Pitta. If you literally translate this word from Sanskrit, it means to shine. And if all these subdoshas of Pitta are connected to the fire, Bhrajaka Pitta is the fire that controls the shining and color of the skin. It is very tightly connected to the previous subdosha, and it is connected to the youth of the skin. And as well as the previous subdosha, Ranjaka Pitta is connected to the products of heme metabolism, but only on the level of skin as the organ. Also, Bhrajaka Pitta has its own personal features, which allows us to move it to a certain segment. From the physiological point of view, we need to point out the pigment which is called melanin and the hormone which is the product of melanin metabolism, melatonin. Secondly, the immune system of the skin is also connected to Bhrajaka Pitta, and it guides its state. And the third point is blood circulation of the skin, which is micro circulatory bed of the skin. Melatonin is a very interesting hormone which stops the skin from aging. It is not only produced in brain glands, it is also produced in the cells of the stomach. An immune system is, first of all, is connected with the cells which we can call the professor cells. These cells are the first ones who meet the foreign substances coming to our bodies, and then they move to the organs of immune system, and they teach the lymphocytes to search and destroy those foreign agents which penetrate our body. And the dysfunction of Bhrajaka Pitta is always connected to the inflammatory processes in the skin. Dr. Vasantla says that the dysfunction of Bhrajaka Pitta is always connected to such skin disorders like eczema, dermatitis, psoriasis, acne, rashes, and other more serious health conditions. Such skin problems as vitiligo are also connected to the dysfunction of Bhrajaka Pitta. And also dark depression, which is common for people living in cold conditions, is also a disorder of Bhrajaka Pitta, and it is the disorder of serotonin production by melanocytes. Atreya Smith says that dysfunction of Bhrajaka Pitta is usually shown by itching or pale skin. But what medicines can you use if you see that Bhrajaka Pitta is in dysfunction in a certain patient? The formula is the same. These are the herbs with bitter, astringent, and sweet tastes, which have cooling energy. But it is very important that these herbs should have blood cleansing and diuretic properties. Great way to treat Bhrajaka Pitta disorders is using an herb called neem. David Crowley also broadens this list, and he shows you the herbs which are mostly Western herbs, and they are available in Europe. But I will pay attention to one certain herb, an Indian herb, which perfectly balances disbalanced Ranjaka Pitta. Neem has all the taste qualities which we were talking about, and first of all, it influences Bhrajaka Pitta. And we have two more subdoshas left, which are very complicated in understanding. They are Sadhaka Pitta and Alochaka Pitta. If you translate Sadhaka from Sanskrit, you will see that it literally means the one who makes an effort to achieve a goal. And as all other subdoshas of Pitta, it is also connected to the processes of food digestion and mental digestion. And the same as Pachaka Pitta is connected to the absorption, assimilation of the food, Sadhaka Pitta is connected to the assimilation of ideas. The same as Pachaka Pitta is connected to the division of the food to essence and waste, Sadhaka Pitta is also connected to the division between evil and good, and truth or reality. And the canonic studies tell us that Sadhaka Pitta is located in Hridaya, which is usually it is the heart. But we just said that Sadhaka Pitta is connected to the mental digestion. Thus, it must be connected to our brain. And some authors believe that it is connected to the thing called limbic system, which is associated with the area of cerebral cortex. These systems controls our basic emotional state. From the modern perception, Sadhaka Pitta is connected to our emotional motivational behavior and the certain nerve centers of the brain, which are determine this emotional motivational behavior. And Dr. Vasantla says that the dysfunction of Sadhaka Pitta is closely connected to the highest nervous activity. And these are the disorders which are connected to the inability to understand and assimilate knowledge. It is connected to the loss of concentration and loss of clarity of perception. And from the medical point of view, as doctors say, it is connected to the disorders called myeloencephalitis. Atreya Smith, one of the specialists, best specialists of European Ayurvedic tradition, associate Sadhaka Pitta with disorders of the mind clarity. From my experience, from my practical experience and assessment of many patients, I can tell that always the disorder of Sadhaka Pitta and its connection with the fifth channel is always a sign of arrhythmia. And if you see that there is a connection of Sadhaka Pitta with any of 12 meridians, you can understand that there are some psychosomatic processes involved in this certain organ, which is connected to the hot emotions of Pitta. But what can be done if you see that this index is disbalanced in a patient which you are assessing? And the formula is the same as before. These are sweet and bitter herbs with cooling energy, but these herbs should contain also sedative properties. And the best herb for balancing Sadhaka Pitta is Brahmi or the mountainous valerian, Jatamamsi. David Crowley again broadens this list and states several Eastern herbs. I will pay close attention to one particular herb, which is called Jatamamsi, which perfectly calms down Sadhaka Pitta. Just take a look that this particular herb influences Sadhaka Pitta in particular again. And the last subdosha is Alochaka Pitta. And if you translate Alochaka from Sanskrit, you will see that it literally means something that reflects the light or perceives. In fact, this is one of the 5 types of fire which is responsible for visual perception. And from the physiological point of view, the Alochaka Pitta is connected to the work of the retina. And fire of Alochaka Pitta are the electromagnetic impulses which are happening during the work of the retina. Problems with Alochaka Pitta are always connected to the dysfunction of the sight, of the vision. And we can divide it in 2 levels. On the first level, these are the problems which are connected to the physiological organ or the eye. And on the subtle level, these are the abnormalities, the dysfunctions of perception of reality. Vasant says that the dysfunctions of Alochaka Pitta, which you palpate on the 3rd level, can lead to the following diseases. These are the processes like cataract or abnormalities of the optic nerves, conjunctivitis, or blepharitis, glaucoma. What if you see the disbalanced index of Alochaka Pitta in a certain patient? Again, the formula is the same. Herbs with sweet and bitter taste, cooling energy, but it is important that they have cleansing properties for the whole body and in particular for the eyes. Dr. Crowley shows some Eastern herbs which also balance Alochaka Pitta. Now let's sum up our lecture. We've referred to 5 types of fire and 5 types of subdosha. Each subdosha is connected to the real physiological process happening in our body. The reflection of the process you will find in VedaPulse indices. And now I hope that you can interpret them. Now I will answer questions which you asked in our chat. First question is from our colleague from Japan. I believe we need more examples of combination of subdosha analysis and meridians for precise diagnosis on the device. Could you please share more examples? Well, we I think we've answered this question during our lecture, and of course we'll prepare some more cases which we can show to you, especially for Vata Subdosha. It is very important to look at Subdosha in connection with Dhatu and Meridians to understand the pathological process behind it. And I paid attention to it in our previous lecture and in today's lecture. Dear colleagues, I thank you for your attention, and I'll be waiting you on our next lecture, which will be devoted to Kapha SubDoshas. Thank you and goodbye.